Welcome to our look ahead to Week 17 of the Premier League. Then it's Chris Rivers and alongside me, Tom McGarry. And we've picked out 4 games that we think could be defining for this weekend of action as we head towards the Christmas period. We're going to be looking at Liverpool against Watford first. The leaders taking on the basement boys in what will be Nigel Pearson's first game in charge of Watford. On paper, Tom, looks like a walk in the park for the Reds, an opportunity to extend that advantage at the top of the table ahead of everybody else playing, but you don't think it will be quite as easy as it's been made out?
Yeah, as you say, on paper it looks like an ideal fixture for Liverpool. 15 wins and a draw from their 16 games. Watford, rock bottom of the table, only 1 win all season, as you just mentioned, and now on to their third manager. But Liverpool are just beginning to get into that run where they're playing so many games over a short period of time in a variety of competitions. They've got the Club World Cup in Qatar to come as well. Jurgen Klopp is likely to rotate his starting lineup, as we've seen over recent weeks for this one, so potentially all or 2 of the 3 of Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino and Mohamed Salah could be rested. It's not going to be a full-strength Liverpool, I don't think. And Watford under Nigel Pearson, you usually get a bit of a new manager bounce. Pearson is very defensively resilient. He gets his sides organised, and I think that will make it really difficult for Liverpool in this game. It's 11-8 for Liverpool to win, but there's to be under 3.5 goals in the contest. So I think that represents really good value. It still means Liverpool can win comfortably 2 or 3-0. But, you know, it also suggests that Watford can dig in and defend strongly. I think it could be a case of a game where we get to the hour mark and it's still 0-0. Eventually, Liverpool will wear them down, but I think it will be quite a tight tussle.
Yeah, I happen to agree with you, actually. I think Liverpool will just get the job done and move on to the next fixture. As you say, it's just 1 game at a time. If they do get the job done, it will mean Manchester City are a massive 17 points behind by the time they kick off on Sunday afternoon against Arsenal. That's probably the standout fixture of the weekend when you're looking down the list. But the Gunners, of course, not in a great form. They did win on Monday night, their first win under Freddie Ljungberg, but that's kind of papering over the cracks for an Arsenal side who have been struggling of late and have a dreadful record against Manchester City. Lost the last 5 matches against City, with the last 2 at the Emirates Stadium seeing the Gunners fail to score. City will be desperate to bounce back after that loss to Manchester United in the derby. Yes, they beat Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League in midweek, but that was a much changed side in a dead rubber European game. I fancy this to be quite an entertaining match. City have not kept a clean sheet in 10 matches now. You can get 7-5 on City to win and both teams to score. I think the Gunners will give them a few problems, Tom, but ultimately City will come out on top.
Yeah, well, we know where Arsenal's strength lies, and that's going forward with the likes of Aubameyang, Lacazette and Nicolas Pepe, who played quite well actually against West Ham during the week. But you're right, Arsenal, bar a 10-minute period in that match, were pretty poor. They've been poor for numerous weeks before that, so I think this will be a really tough test for them. It's almost the ideal opponents as well for Manchester City, a side who play in a similar style, and there should be gaps that City can exploit. So as you say, plenty of goals, but the vast majority of them should come to Pep Guardiola's team.
Yeah, Arsenal have got injury problems as well. Another side looking to push on up the table is their North London rivals Tottenham. They travelled to Wolves in the game earlier on Sunday, 2 o'clock kickoff at Molineux, and that should be a really interesting encounter. Wolves on this fantastic run of form, 11 unbeaten in the Premier League now. They were able to rest players for their Europa League game on Thursday night, as did Tottenham. Of course, they went away to Bayern Munich, but left the likes of Harry Kane and Dele Alli at home. So should be a very interesting encounter, this one. Jose Mourinho has got a bit more out of Spurs, it has to be said, but their away form is still poor. They've still lost 2 of their 3 matches on the road under Mourinho, and it's just 1 league win away from home since January for Tottenham. And we all know that Wolves are very difficult to beat at home, just 1 home defeat all season. And they have become the draw experts of the Premier League. An incredible 9 of 16 games have ended all square for Wolves, and hence why I think at 13-5, the draw for 2 sides who look evening match looks a good price.
Yeah, that's really tempting, isn't it? I think it's almost a point apiece that they'd both be reasonably satisfied with as well. Wolves, it keeps that unbeaten run going. For Spurs, it improves on their poor away record, and it means they're both still in and around the push towards the top 4 places, which is ultimately certainly Spurs' goal, and potentially potentially even Wolves as well. They could have an outside chance of getting into those positions. If I did have to hedge my bets, I probably would lean just towards a Wolves victory based on the respective home and away records of the two sides. But I do think a draw is probably the right call.
Yeah, so those are the matches which will kind of affect the top end of the table. Looking further down the table, huge game at St Mary's, Southampton versus West Ham. But just above that, two sides maybe looking over their shoulders still in Newcastle against Burnley. How do you see this one playing out, Tom?
Yeah, well, the two sides similarly positioned in the table, but over recent weeks their form has probably changed up a little bit. Burnley have really struggled of late. They've been shipping goals left, right and centre, not looking as resilient as they usually do under Sean Dyche. 5-0 against Spurs last weekend, and it wasn't just the defeat and the amount of goals they let in, but the manner of that performance was disappointing. Yes, I think there'll be a bit of a reaction in this game, but this is a Newcastle team that have turned a corner under Steve Bruce. They've got 8 more points at this stage this season than they had under Rafa Benitez last term, and Benitez was heralded as the saviour of Newcastle, wasn't he? Bruce wasn't wanted when he came in, but he's really making his mark, and there seems to be a turning of the tide amongst supporters as well, a feel-good factor. They're 3-1 to win this game, Newcastle as well, away from home, and based on the respective forms, that's got to be tempting. Looking at goal scorers as well, we know Newcastle aren't really full of players who are capable of finding the back of the net on a regular basis, particularly their forward players. But John Joe Shelvey, 5 for the season. He scored in each of his last 3. He's 9-1 to net in this fixture as well. A man who monopolises the set pieces, free kicks and corners and things like that. We saw him score a headed goal as well from an assist from Andy Carroll in Newcastle's last game against Southampton. So for me, him at 9-1 to score at any time could be another side bet, if you like, to the main result.
Yeah, so good options there to look at heading into the weekend, and plenty of Premier League action to come. Don't forget to follow us on our social media channels to stay up to date with all of the latest news, and click subscribe on YouTube to stay up to date with all of our latest videos.